As a builder, if you think what you're selling is a structure, a home, a deck, whatever, that's not what you're selling.
This is Zak Johnson, proud business owner of ZJ Building, Adelaide's award-winning custom home and renovation specialist.
What does ZJ Building look like now?
We've just finished Q3. That was our biggest quarter in terms of lead generation. We sort of exceeded it by probably 40% of what we thought we were going to get.
But he wasn't always regarded as the builder of choice.
It's that funny story that like 5 years of hard work and I'm an overnight success.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. What did you focus on when you started? Like, did you have a focus of type of projects, or was just do whatever comes in?
yeah, I mean, at the start, exactly, do whatever comes in. All of my work was from word of mouth.
As part of our visit to Adelaide for the Builder Workshop in October, we wanted to meet with Zak to learn more about him and his mission.
I mean, we spent all day yesterday pretty much with you, so we could talk about all sorts of things.
ZJ Building went from no consistency of work to now having a full pipeline of ideal projects. And in this episode of the Builder and Marketing Podcast, he shares exactly what needed to shift in order to do so.
I want to help as many people as I can, and I want to lift the industry by setting the example. How am I going to do that if no one knows about me? First few years at ZJ Building, I didn't really know what I was doing, right? Like just a carpenter, just giving it a red hot go. I just went from one thing to the next because it just made sense.
What did you focus on when you started? Like, what type of projects? Did you have a focus of type of projects, or was just do whatever comes in?
Yeah, I mean, at the start, exactly, do whatever comes in.
And the work that you were doing, it ranged from what to what?
Yeah, so hanging doors,
Right.
Changing out windows, decks, pergolas, little bits of maintenance. That's where it started. And then, I always knew I wanted to get into larger renos and extensions. So that was always in the back of my mind, but I wasn't too focused on that at the start. I was just trying to get work.
Yeah.
Did you, at that point in time, did you have was it more of a reactive approach as well
Oh yeah.
to marketing, sales?
Yep.
Tell us, what went through your mind back then? Like, how did you think you're going to get jobs?
So I didn't think about that. It was just, I was going out and I had people who were, calling me saying they wanted a certain, project done. So I'd go and see them, and I didn't know anything about sales or marketing or even departments. There's different things that you do in a business that sort of slot into different compartments within it. So I didn't have a marketing process or a sales process. I just was my true, authentic self, just having a go. I didn't really have a target or a goal or anything like that. That's how it sort of started, because and then along the way, I sort of came across certain resources, different trades. So I actually connected with a plumber in particular, and we got along really well. And so we would start talking business, and that harbored other conversations, which led on to other things. And then it just started opening my eyes up to what the business could do if you put the effort in.
Yeah.
And then when I started learning about, hey, if I make some messages in this way and communicate this way, I'll get people who call me who actually want these types of jobs. So that to me was just like a no-brainer. This is the process I have to follow, and then that's going to allow me to have the business that I want. Yeah. So I've always been someone who thinks big, maybe not big enough, but I've always had a vision with where I want to go. And I suppose, staying true to it and staying on the path and always thinking about it, those opportunities that I had, sort of light bulb moments came on, like, if I do that, I'm going to get to where I want to go. So it made sense.
Why do you play golf? Because it seems like you do this quite often.
So I find the golf course very therapeutic. 3.5 hours of focusing on something as simple as just hitting a ball, it takes your mind off everything. Yeah. Being a dad, running a business.
How do you stay focused on kind of the right things? Because problems come up the whole time.
I think the builders that are sort of a bit scattered and they're struggling with lots of things, look at their day and look at what they're doing, and they're just reacting to everything. They're not actually planning ahead a week or a month or anything at all, really. So then their day, when they wake up in the morning, is like not even sure what they're doing. Their phone starts ringing and they just move into whatever the problem is.
So very reactive.
Yeah, very reactive.
Maybe can you go into a day where you feel like that? What does that day look like?
Look, there's always going to be days like that, where you've got a plan and it goes wrong. For me, we schedule a lot of phone calls. I schedule meetings. I get booked out in advance a lot. And you start to realize how precious your time is. So you got to guard it a little bit. You got to make sure that you've got this time allocated to do this thing. You got to do it. And if the phone starts ringing and there is a problem, you have to address it. And if it's a big priority, well then everything else has to move, because as the business owner, sometimes you just have to do that, right? But then I suppose you want to empower your team to be able to deal with those little problems, right? And you only want to deal with the big ones, because you've got to work to your strengths. And as a business owner, most business owners, their strength is solving problems, right? And so you don't want to solve all the tiny little problems, or if you constantly are doing that because you have to, well then make a system for it, train someone else, and they can do it. So then you can start to focus on the bigger problems. And then that's when you get a lot of growth and, you actually start moving the needle. The sacrifice is work. It's not home time. So weekends for me are about family and kids. And if I'm going to go out and play 18 holes and I need a half a day, I'll take half a day off work. And that's booked 3 or 4 weeks in advance, sometimes 2 or 3 months in advance, so that I know that week's free, this half of this day, I'm doing this. And then as the meetings start catching up to it, it's like everything gets booked around it. And it's there for me. As a builder, if you think what you're selling is a structure, a home, a deck, whatever, that's not what you're selling.
Yeah.
Because that's not what the client's buying. The client's buying the memory that they're going to have with their family when they're around the new kitchen table, having a dinner party, when their daughter comes home and they've had a tough day at school and they're having an emotional family time moment in the living room that you built for them. That's what they're buying. Those memories, So yeah, okay, for them to get them, you have to build the wall frames and pour the slab and all that sort of stuff. That's part and parcel with it. But if you can sort of illustrate to your client that, this investment is going to give you this amazing feeling for a long, long time. This house is going to last. It's going to give you everything you want. You're going to be the person that all your friends want to come over to and have the dinner party with, or have the barbecue at because of the outdoor living area and things like that. Like that's like what you get from building. Yeah. The positive of the positive. And that's really what you got to get down to. That's what you got to talk to your clients about. And that's why it's so good to ask these deeper questions. Why is now the right time for you? Why are you building? Oh, we've got the money. Okay, well, but why do you, what are you trying to achieve out of this home? Oh, my kitchen's too small. Oh, do you like cooking? Oh yeah, we love cooking. We entertain all the time. Okay, are you entertaining at the moment? No, we don't entertain because I'm embarrassed about my home. I don't want them to come in. There's no room. So now you're starting to get into the meat of the why.
Yeah.
And then when the client knows that, now you can solve their problem.
Yeah.
So much more confidence than
Every person is different as well, like what they value. So we've got a million different type of personalities and stuff.
Yep.
So sometimes it's hard to, again, get in sync. There's a few things that need to happen. Communication, they need to trust you. You have to kind of get along. So I think one thing's really important is you've got to, and this is something I see with you, is you got clear on what type of clients you want to help. And you've narrowed it down a little bit, because when you narrow it down, you can go deeper with that particular client. Yeah. Yep.
100%. It means that this comes back to systems, right? Like, you're dealing with the same type of people. You know what they're looking for. You can build your business around solving all their problems and addressing all their fears, because it's the same set of problems and fears, because a renovation is, they might be living there. How does your company deal with that? So you can address that question if that's what you specialize in. Yeah.
What was the first project like? Yeah, what was your first project as ZJ Building?
Oh, you know what it was? It was a outdoor living area for my mum's friend. I still remember this job really well because she actually helped us out so much. She just bought this house and she needed to do all these things to it. I just started my business. She rang me up and was like, right, I can start there in 2 weeks. Done. All right. So we had a really good project to sort of get our teeth into. We were there for a few weeks. And then she started buying all this IKEA furniture and we're like, yeah, we'll install that for you. We just started doing all this stuff for her. So it wasn't like an amazing custom home, sell a story to sort of tell, but it ended up being a really cool project, and you know, it was just the perfect timing, you know. So that's a cool story.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so all of my work was from word of mouth.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So like family, friends.
Yep. Family, friends, friends of friends. I would get, it was all pretty much through all the effort that I put in through my apprenticeship and working for past businesses, doing weekend work and just building, you know, that community up. Because I'm a pretty sort of extroverted person. I talk to people, tell them what I'm doing. Yeah. People tend to like me, so if something comes up, they would talk about it, or they'd call me, and we'll just go from there. So, you know, looking back at it, a pretty silly sort of plan to get going with, but like, it's just, you're ignorant, you know, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So
and you just have to start somewhere. I mean,
that's right.
When you guys first started talking, like what did ZJ Building look like back then? Like when?
We were very different to what we are now, very different. So not a lot of systems in place, not a lot of work on, but a big dream for me to grow it, you know, and start to put those things in place. I wasn't even sure what they were, but I knew I wanted to be better than what I was. And yeah, watched the video, just like loved it. And then JP reached out and we started chatting, and, you know, we did like a discovery session, and it was like, oh, well, we had a chat. It seemed like a good fit. And we sat down and went through, I can't remember what it was. We went through a bit of a presentation, and he showed me like what you guys do. And at the end of the call, which I really appreciated, was like, you know what, Zach, you're going to be awesome, but you're not quite ready. Like, you're not in the position for us to help you best yet.
Yeah. What did your projects and your pipeline and stuff look like back then?
Maybe one extension as a pipeline, and that was like a word of mouth referral, and I didn't really have a sales process. I'm just sort of going along with whatever. I was on the tools every day. It would have just been me and one other guy, both on the tools, and me just running everything. So,
you know why I'm finding this so fascinating is because that's not what I picture, because obviously I got to know you a little bit later on in the process.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just ZJ Building, and he's smashing it. You know, he's doing all these awesome projects in Adelaide. And then the other day when we were planning, you know, some of this over Zoom, when you told me that, I was like, but that can't be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's this perception now.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I perceive you.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine it back then. But it just shows you again, like, everyone starts somewhere. Yeah.
100%. It's that funny story that, like, 5 years of hard work and I'm an overnight success.
Yeah.
It's like,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Zach, thank you very much for coming up and chatting in front of these people.
once all the videos started rolling out, we just noticed the conversation starting to change with like how warm the leads or the prospects would be when they talk to us. Like, I'd have a lot of people say, you know, I've been watching a lot of videos, and how are your daughters? You know, it's like, oh, they've obviously watched my videos and they're asking about that. And some of, you know, depending on when that conversation's happening, it might be like, oh, yeah, the video you watched was probably, you know, 6 months old, so Bonnie's running around now and she's, you know, getting into this and that. So it's a massive icebreaker just to sort of, you know, you sort of get at the same level with them. You know, it's not builder client talking, it's just two people talking about something that they've got in common because they're a family and I have a family. So that's such a good way to break the ice and just really just get strides ahead straight off the bat. And then it's almost like the conversation of building, we better get down to business, we better talk about that, you know, so because that's what we're here for. And then you can sort of roll into your questions and your process from there. So I suppose from the impact, it just made conversations nicer, funner, you know. The leads that we're getting through, they're just more aligned because obviously the messaging we putting out there with all the advertising is obviously attracting a client who's going to want to do the work we want to do. So we're able to really like hone down on that and really focus. Even as far as like, I want some more leads from Colonel Light Gardens because they've got the certain type of home that we want to build in, so we can focus in on that. And it's like, when they start coming in, it's like crazy how it works. I find marketing fascinating, so it's really cool.
Like, say 2 years of educational content. You think if someone walks through your doors after that and they've been watching that for 2 years, compare that to someone who walks in and they've never consumed.
Yep.
It's like chalk and cheese.
Yep.
You know,
100%.
a lot of builders don't grasp that fact that you can create the person that walks through your door by educating them, by feeding them information. You know, you feed them the right information. Like you can make your hamster fat if you want. So feed them.
Yeah.
Do that to your prospects or clients walking through the door.
Yeah. Like educating a client with content marketing, it's exponential because you're gonna address all those problems that you will answer all those questions in your client's mind, and they're gonna do that organically without you having to do anything because they're just gonna read it on your website. But then what comes out of that is when they call you, now there's a new question. And that's a question you've never come up across before. Now there's a new article, now there's a new piece of content, so you can do that again. And then you actually get deeper into their list of concerns or fears. And how good's that? You know, it's almost like every conversation needs to be, what's the piece of content that I can get out of this to help educate the next person who comes through and asks that same question. Because the question that's on our best prospects' lips is what we need to talk about all the time. That's going to attract the attention, isn't it?
A prospect, they are so desperate to find someone they can trust. So make that you. And by educating them, that becomes you more organically than trying to manufacture the trust. And if you're the one educating them, then you're the expert. Then you're the one that they are going to look up to, that they're going to trust, that they're going to go, if you say this, they go, okay, you know. Whereas if they've been consuming it elsewhere, every time you say something, they then go, oh, but I read this elsewhere. I read this, you know. And it's like, why are you not providing the education to them?
And it's almost like a system as well, because it's now, you know, the 5 articles they read, that's 5 conversations they don't have to have, and you've already got the rapport. It helps your prospect make a decision quicker, builds trust, like all those good things. But the key thing is it helps them move forward quicker. And that's what they want to do, and that's what you want them to do. Because, you know, at the end of the day, the client wants the house built so they can have all those memories in there, you know, and this is a natural part of that process. They have to go through these steps and these conversations. But if they can do that in their own time at midnight, because they get a bit obsessive and they want to read it all, just provide them that platform. I've got all this content, consume as much as you want. Like my long-term vision as well is to lift the industry. And so we've come up with a bit of a phrase for our company around, and I think that's why we align so much, because it's not just about marketing, right? It's about lifting the whole industry. So
That's what we're going to be talking about. So keep this one. I'm going to...
But he's hot on it.
But like a massive transformational purpose is something we come across, like it's a concept I came across recently. So we come up with ours, and it's essentially setting the example that lifts the industry. So other builders, it doesn't have to be a builder, it could be another business person who just sees a professionalism in us and be like, what they're doing is awesome, I like it, I'm going to emulate that in some fashion and relate it to my industry. It's going to lift, obviously, the building industry, but it could lift other businesses, it could save other businesses, you know. It's a form of coaching in a way, by example, right? Not necessarily consulting with them, but setting that example, being open about it as well. Like if a builder rings me, and I do get builders cold calling me saying, how are you doing this? What's going on with that? I see you on Instagram and Facebook all the time. What's going on there? And sometimes a cold call turns into like a 1 hour DM with this guy. I'm just like, I like talking about it, right? So I can chat. Yeah. But we talk about margins and clients and leads and where they get it from. And, they ask me, how am I doing it? I just say, this is what we do. We do it this, then this, then this, and this is the results we get. And they're like, how are you doing that? I was like, well, this is how we do it. This is the process we follow. So just planting a seed in them, they're like, oh, if I want to lift my business, I could start educating my clients, and they've got a different story. They might have different questions that they're going to answer, but now there's more content for other clients to consume. They're going to approach him. He's going to do a better job with his business development in delivering great work and, lifting the industry. So it sort of like harbors that, which is what I'm all about, I'm a big advocate for this industry, and I'm just like, I'm growing to love it more and more all the time because it touches so many people. I mean, what is it, like the largest industry in Australia? Building industry? Yeah. You could be building a home for a family who then enjoys it. They decide to have a kid. They raise that kid in that family, have a beautiful experience. That kid turns out to be the next president or, the next prime minister or the next influential person. And we're stretching it pretty far here, but that is what it is.
And that's what I loved about your impact that you're having, like, or your goal of what impact you want to have, and that is around, improving the industry, but more so like on the client side of things. What is that impact you're having on clients' lives, and what does that mean?
Well, I think first of all, I touch on vision. Like I think it's important to have something to work towards that's bigger than, commodities like money or anything like that. Like, you want to have something that you want to know what your why is, so you get out of bed and it drives you every day, because then that's going to keep you moving forward to do the things that you want to do. So you got to work out what that is, and that's really important, because that's what's going to give you the longevity, to do the things every day. But to answer the question around what impact we're seeing with our clients, I think it comes back to their experience and how they feel through the whole process. We help with design. Obviously, we deliver on the job, and then there's, the handover, and then, forever after that. Like, they'll always be a client of ours. And so, I pride myself and the company on how we're able to, get through a 1 or 2 year build or project, design and build. And then at the end, the relationship with the client is still really good. Like, all of our clients, if I see them on the street, like, more than happy to come up, say good day, have a coffee. I call past clients regularly, talk about just whatever, bit of market research, bit of just how's it all going, how's the place. So that's really important to me, and that sort of comes back to like setting that example. What I just said then is not that common. A lot of builders, they deliver what they say in terms of the building, but then the experience is sort of like just the little things right at the end. They miss on them. The communication drops off once the last payment's done, and it's sort of like that really taints the whole relationship. Because like they've had this great experience, or maybe just an okay experience, but then it was just ruined in the last minute just because the builder didn't do those couple of simple things that just really tied it in a bow for them.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned earlier, understanding the prospect's why. Can you dive into a bit of that? Because it's quite important. What role has that played when it comes to qualifying and better understanding prospects?
It does a couple of things. Obviously, helps the client realize that you do understand what they want, because when they share it with you, then they're sharing a bit of their story with you. So it's a little bit vulnerable, right? We want to do this because my mum's getting older and she needs to move in with us because we want to send her to a home. So we want to extend and renovate and make it more livable for them. So then that's a little bit of vulnerability, because now I know that their mum's old and they're, in that sense. So it helps with building that rapport. But then if you understand those things, then you get those little sound bites and those little items that are really important to them, and you can use it in your sales material when you're presenting a proposal to them around, okay, the next step for you is for us to do the design, and we're going to design this home in a way so your mum can move in and live effortlessly. So we're thinking wider door frames and no steps anywhere, so that'll work really well. And they're like, this builder gets me. He knows what I want.
That's what I love about you, because you're connecting a feature to the value that what they need, and the problem that you're solving for them. Man,
But you can't do that without asking the question.
Yeah, you need that data, right?
That's right. That's right. And so it's a simple matter of just having a system to ask certain questions, filtering through, grabbing the little bits of the key little bits of information to use to, help influence them with their decision to we're the right fit for you, because this is how we're going to deliver your job and this is what we're going to achieve. And it's not just a beautiful home, it's a beautiful home that will work for your mum and your kids and your family for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
And now it's really hitting on the hot button of them, because the reason they're doing this is so that their mum can move in.
If you know all those things and okay, I've got to build it this way, that way, and then you put your price there, and for some reason you didn't communicate those value points, and they go get another quote from another builder, and that builder, we assume that they didn't dig deep enough with their questions and everything else like that they're just going to build something that won't be up to standard for the grandparents, maybe just a smaller kitchen or all those things. and they see, well, the budget's way lower. Yeah, let's go with that builder. Now you've done them a disservice. They're not going to get the value that they
Not only
need.
that, the reason they want to do it is to achieve these things. They've made their decision on price in the end because they were confused.
Yeah.
And so then the job gets done, they spend 200 grand on this reno, and the doors are too small and there's steps everywhere, so mum can't move in.
Yeah.
What a waste of 200 grand.
Yeah.
You know, why not spend 250 because we thought about the retaining and fixing up the driveway and cleaning up those levels and making wider doorways. It's 50 grand more, but now it works for what you want.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, I was going to go a bit colder there. Like it's dual key, so when she passes on, then you potentially can make an independent living for your kids when they grow up, or it's having that long-term vision when you understand their why.
100%.
Well, yeah, I think the one cost $200,000 and the other one was an investment of $250,000.
Yeah.
The one was a negative $200,000. The other side, you actually gained $250,000 by giving $250,000.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a real advocate for the industry and I really want it to be better. You know, there's a lot of stereotypes and things out there that, you know, don't all say the nice things about builders and trades. So I think the industry needs a big lift, and, you know, I see what you guys are doing and what other businesses are doing, and that really resonates with me. So I've sort of adopted that as well. With one of the things that we want to do is lift the whole industry, and we want to do that by setting an example of what a professional builder should look like, how we communicate to our clients, how we deliver to our clients, with our marketing, our messaging, with our content we're putting out. So all that sort of stuff, obviously we're doing that to attract clients, but also other businesses notice and they see the results we're getting because they can start to see them. And I have conversations with them about it as well. And so then they might start adopting those things, which is going to lift the industry. You know, the things that we're doing that are quite different will start to become the norm, like getting paid for quotes and being looked at in a professional light, like a doctor or lawyer. You know, it's a different industry, so you can't always draw exact comparisons, but we are a professional. We do run a business. And I just think that that's sort of overlooked a little bit as a stereotype at the moment. I was saying earlier, like, builders aren't really selling a home or a deck or an outdoor living space. Like, they're providing, you know, that's one of the things they deliver, but the result of that means that client can now be the person who they invite all their friends around to their home. They can, you know, they can entertain. They feel really house proud. Like it really lifts them up, you know, and it once again gets back to that experience and the feeling they get. They just feel like the center of attention. They feel like everyone's, you know, that they're helping their friends by providing this experience. So, and that can then go on, and, you know, you're providing this home that then can foster more relationships with your client, which could turn into, like, I mean, the potential there is infinite. You know, it could be anything. It could be the next leaders of our country, you know, growing up in the homes that we build as builders. And I was saying over lunch, it is a little bit of a stretch there, but that is what it is. Like, that's the truth. Without builders, you're not going to have a home. And so that home then can't have those relationships built in it, especially if the home provides a certain feeling, which then just promotes all that great stuff.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Builder and Marketing Podcast. If you haven't done so already, click the link in the description to subscribe and receive each new episode directly to your inbox.